Hi, I'm Laura Henry, and I am a craft dabbler, and I'm also a close to my heart demonstrator. I have another project for you today, and it's using the Jack Scrapbook and Thin Cuts, which will be unavailable in just a couple of days because it comes from the Seasonal Expressions catalog that it ends at the end of August 2017. So that's the card, and we're going to get started. So first I cut a piece of glacier cardstock 11 by 4 1/4 to make a top fold card, and I cut it with my paper trimmer, and I'm going to fold it in half to make a top folding card. And then I'm going to cut a piece of cardstock for the grass that is sweet leaf, and I'm cutting it 2.5 inches by 4 1/4 wide, and I'm going to put some Tombow glue on the back of that, and I'm going to adhere it down to the bottom to represent grass. And then I have the tree trunk there that I cut out in another video, which I will link in the description below. And I cut that out with my Cricut. And now I'm just going to ink up using a circular motion and a sponge to just kind of distress and make some shadows on the edge of the tree trunk there. It just gives a little bit more depth and a little bit more character. And so that's what I'm doing there with the sponge. And that was a round circular sponge that I cut into 8 pieces. And it's just a couple bucks, or it's actually less than that, it's like $1 something, I think. And so you get a lot of bang for your buck with that sponge. Now I'm using the dual action glue pen to glue down the top layer of the trunk to the bottom. Excuse me. And I really like this glue pen because it doesn't have a lot of stickiness to it. It feels watery, but yet it really has a good glue. It really sticks down very, very well. So right there I cut it out, but I searched and searched all over for that mountain range and couldn't find it anywhere, and finally found it hidden underneath some stuff. And there I folded my paper over, as you can see, because it was getting kind of inked up and I did not want to get that ink all over everything. So now I'm just using a couple of Post-it notes that just come from the office supply store, and a sponge dauber and the pewter ink, and I am laying the Post-it notes in a way that it will mask it so that I can make those lines and make the shadows on these mountains. And I'm making the mountains that I want in the background to be really dark, and then the mountains towards the front are going to be a little bit lighter. But to give the mountains some depth, I'm also inking up every edge of the mountain, the sides as well as the bottom and the top. And then I'm just making those mountains that are in the very back a little bit darker. You can kind of tell where the lines are to know where to put that Post-it note. So now that I have that all inked up, I'm going back with they're a chalk marker, and I'm just making almost like, well, there's snow caps, on the tops of the mountains, and I have to go back a couple of times because it wasn't covering like I thought it should, but it really did have the desired effect after I went over it a couple of times. It was light, because it's a very far away mountain range in this picture, but yet you could tell that that was snow. So I'm using that dual action pen again, or glue pen, and I'm going to adhere that at the top of the grass section. And I like to turn my paper over to adhere it so that if any glue does squish out, I don't get it all over my fingers and then transfer it elsewhere. So I'm using some of the 3D foam tape to put on the back of that tree trunk because I wanted to give it a little bit of dimension. So by putting that foam tape on it, it raises it out from the card, and makes it just look a little bit more dimensional. So I'm going to use the Jack stamp now, and I use that little foam that comes with the stamp set, and I'm stamping him on watercolor paper because I'm going to color him in with the watercolors that Close to My Heart sells. But first, I'd made a little mask out of Post-it notes. Love that product. And cut it around his muscle, and I had just stamped it on that and then cut it out, and I made it on the sticky part of it, but then when I cut it out, it didn't really cover very much, so I had to stick another Post-it note over the top of it. And then I got the little tattoo comes in the set, and so I was able to stamp that tattoo on his arm. And now I'm just dipping using a water brush into the watercolors, and I'm painting his face kind of a flesh tone, and his arms and his chest. And I actually put a little bit of pink on his cheeks, and I put this in, fast motion so that you didn't have to watch me do all that coloring. But really, when I was painting his cheeks, I got a little carried away with the pink, and then I dabbed it with the paper towel, and then I went back and I got more flesh, and then it took away too much of the cheeks, and so I really kind of overworked it. And not to point out my flaws or anything, but at the end and the close-up of the card, you can kind of tell I overworked him. The paint, it kind of went into the hair a little bit, and it really wasn't the neatest job I've ever done. And so because of the really the watercolor colors were a little bit opaque, and so I went back with just a plain old gel pen, and I traced over some of the black lines with it, and I darkened in his eyes, which in my sample looks fabulous. But on this one, the white was just a little bit creepy. So later at the end, I go back and I just put a little black over it, and it looks fine. So now I'm using the die set that comes with the set that I bought. Now you can get the stamp set on its own, but you could also buy it with the dies, and that's what I did. And so I just put a little bit of post-it note, or you could use washi tape to hold the die in place, and I ran it through my Cuttlebug. And he is a little bit damp still, so I kind of like blow on him or like wave him around a little bit, but he really is pretty dry. And then I use the dual action pen again to put glue on the back of him. And I'm just going to glue him on kind of on top, but tucked behind the tree a little bit, so it makes him look like he's standing behind the tree, and he's like holding his arms up. He's like, yes, I just felled this tree. And so that's how he's, that's his persona there. So to put the message on there, I really wanted a cloud, but I didn't have a close to my heart cloud. Oh, I guess right now I'm making that axe. So I wanted to use the watercolor paper for the axe because I'm going to color it with watercolor. So I had enough of the scrap. I didn't need both of those axes. I only needed one. So I stamped the one that was solid all the way around. And then I just got the watercolor pens again, or the water brush and the watercolors out, and I colored the handle brown like it was wood, and then the axe part gray. And then I set that aside to let it dry. It really wasn't all that wet, but let it dry. And now I'm going to do the cloud. So I have my Cuttlebug back out, and I just have a cloud die, and I honestly can't tell you where it came from because I've had it forever and I don't store it in its original packaging. So I cut that out and then put my Cuttlebug away. And now I'm going to use a word, some words that actually come in a set. It comes with the Flower Market bundle, and the stamp set is Sending Smiles. So I don't think you can get that unless you buy that Cricut bundle, but I really like that phrase because of the, falling for you and felling trees. And so that's the one I used. And then I'm going to put some of the 3D tape on the back of that, and so that it is also kind of dimensional. And there I'm showing you the two different widths of tape that come when you buy a package of the tape from Close to My Heart. It's you get 1/4 of an inch and 3/8 inch, and they come in the same roll, and you get 75 inches of tape. I'm not sure if that's each roll or a total of 75. I would think it's each, but it says per roll. So, and it is 2 millimeters tall. So now I'm using the dual action glue pen again on the axe, and I just put some at the bottom, the top, and the middle to adhere it to that tree stump, like it's just leaning up against the tree stump. And there you can see I re-blacked his eyes, and that's the project. So thanks for watching. You can visit me at my blog, and if you want to buy stamp sets from me, then they're available from at laurahenry.closetomyheart.com. Thank you.